Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter Podcast. You are listening to a special Peach Bowl episode. We are gearing up to go to Atlanta here at the end of December. We've got a lot planned for alumni and fans who are going there. We're going to be hosting a number of events. And really, a key player in all of that is our president, Anand Ganjam. We're going to be talking with Anand about, the importance of spending time with our alumni in Atlanta. We know that a lot of folks are going to be going there. Obviously, a lot of football fans, but obviously, there's also going to be a lot of just non-football chatting going on, friends catching up with friends, classmates catching up with classmates. So I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. I could give Anand a long intro. He's a great guy, great Penn Stater, 2015 grad from the Smeal College of Business. Again, the president of the Penn State Alumni Association, the largest alumni network in the world. Anand, we're so pleased that you made some time for us today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me and happy to be here.
Absolutely. We are just a couple weeks away from going to Atlanta. It's hard to believe, as James Franklin says, in the year 2023, that you're doing something for the first time in college football. Penn State going to the Peach Bowl for the first time. Just to give folks a quick overview, the Alumni Association is hosting a tour. So some folks will be getting there Thursday night. A lot of folks will also be getting there Friday. We'll have a pep rally. We'll have a pregame tailgate on Saturday. And we're also going to have a volunteer service project, which I know, Anand, you're a big fan of. Looking forward to going to Atlanta in a few weeks. What are you looking forward to the most? And maybe I'll just leave the question at that. What are you looking forward to the most going to Atlanta?
Well, I couldn't be more excited. We got to go to the Rose Bowl last year. We've been to a number of New Year's Six Bowls. I think there's a lot of pressure because I heard the fact that if we were to win the Peach Bowl, I believe we will be the first team to win all six of the New Year's Six Bowls. So a lot of added pressure there. But I couldn't be more excited for the couple of days that we're going to spend with Penn Staters. We're anticipating thousands and thousands of Penn State alums getting together for our pep rallies. We get this great opportunity to meet with our local volunteer leaders. And the bowl game gives us a chance to go a little bit farther away than we typically would. It's always awesome to hang out with our Penn State community in Philly and in Pittsburgh and throughout greater Pennsylvania. But when you get out to Atlanta, a lot of those Penn Staters don't get the chance to really connect with members of our university, members of our alumni association. So we're going to have a great opportunity to connect with those volunteers who are doing great things in their community. I always love making an impact in our local communities at the bowl game too. And I know the full alumni association staff do a great job of setting up a volunteer service activity. Last year, we had a great community service food drive at the LA County Food Bank with Utah. I know this year we're going to do something great with Ole Miss too. So there's so much to be excited about, but it's really so many Penn Staters coming together to be and supporting of a university that we love, and of course for our athletes too. So it's counting down the days. We're almost there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure to be a good time. We both touched on the service project. As you said, it's really one of our favorite traditions. Big shout out to our CEO, Paul Clifford, who when he came to the Alumni Association, that was something he started. You were at the LA Regional Food Bank last year. What was the vibe like for you? I know it was, it seemed like hard work, but, a lot of people were smiling. I know that you spoke with Paul. How important are moments like that and events like that when you're going to a trip like a bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, look, it gives everyone a chance to sort of get to know each other, I think, in a more informal setting. But it also, I think, brings to life the impact of our university and our alumni that goes beyond supporting athletic events, right? It hits another demographic of individuals who have passion in other ways. So I think that being there, the other piece of it is getting that connectivity with a university that we don't get to talk to a lot. That was our first time ever playing Utah in a game. So getting to interact with alums from Utah who were equally excited to be at that game, probably not equally excited about the outcome of the game, but happy to be there. And I thought that was a really great friendly competition to show collectively we as higher education alums, passionate alums of major universities are making a difference. So the diversity and the types of events that we hold, whether that's networking events, whether that's athletic specific pep rallies, and whether that's community service events, goes to show how all of the different ways that you can engage with your alumni association and your alma mater, which I think is really important as we look to attract as many alums as possible into the fold of the alumni association.
That's well said, on. And let's stay with this topic for another question or two. You mentioned something that I wanted to follow up on in terms of the diversity offered by the Alumni Association. We know a lot of Penn Staters are football fans, but there's never been a time in the history of our university when our alumni base has been more diverse. So leveraging football, getting out in our local communities, and even when you're down in Atlanta talking with our alumni, how important is it for you to reinforce all that the Alumni Association has to offer when you're talking with alumni? Maybe some for the first time, maybe some who, they know about Penn State, but maybe there have been some changes or new offerings and resources in the last couple of years that maybe this is an opportunity to bring them up to speed on things.
It's so important. I mean, when I think about the Alumni Association, I think there's two really important words for me. There's impact and there's value. No one can debate the impact that the Alumni Association has on our students, on our alums, on our communities, whether that's all of the money we raise for scholarships, whether that's all of the amazing events that we put up to support athletics, whether that's the funds that we raise for the Four Diamonds, the fund, and for Thon. There's so much of a difference that our Alumni Association and our Alumni Association volunteers make on the university, and membership and engagement really drives that impact. And on the other hand, there's value, to the point that you made new offerings all of the time. We also have to talk about the value to the individual. So when you become a part of the Alumni Association, you have access to the world's largest alumni network. You have access to amazing services like Alumni Career Services. You have access to things like discounts at local vendors. You have access to our career directory, various networking events, 230 affiliate groups. And that's the value that you as an individual can get from the Alumni Association. And there's just so much there. So it's an important reminder going out and having conversations for me to hear what's important to our alums. What do they want to do? What's valuable to them? A lot of people, they want to join the Alumni Association to show their pride and amplify the impact. Other individuals, their priority might be, well, I need something for myself. I maybe need to build a community within a new city that I'm living in, or, I'm looking for a new job, right? There's value there for you as an individual. So reminding alums what all the Alumni Association can do to amplify your life personally, but also hearing from them about what they need, so that we can talk about that within our alumni council and other sort of governing boards. I think goes a long way. So those conversations are really important, and have really helped shape my role and my approach to being president too.
Yeah, absolutely, Anand. You're right. There are so many resources that the Alumni Association offers. Our colleague Liz King loves to tout the pet insurance discount, and so she doesn't just talk the talk; she walks the walk. She has taken advantage of that, and so wherever you are at this point in your career, in your life, the Alumni Association is here to offer you whatever you may need at this moment. And now, just maybe ask you to take a little bit of a step back on it and just kind of reflect on the fall semester. We had so many just amazing moments with alumni. Of course, you traveled to away games. We had homecoming. There were a few award ceremonies. As you look back on the fall semester and how we're going to wrap it up in Atlanta, what are a few things that stood out to you about the fall and kind of the power of Penn State that you were saying?
Oh yeah, I mean, the fall was a lot, and it was so fast and so unbelievable. Whether that's celebrating our alums and the Alumni Fellow Awards ceremony, whether that's so many different events that we host for our students through homecoming. But I got to say, when I think about traveling and being part of our away football games and our Roar Tour, just to tell a quick story, every single game that I went to, I was just so shocked by how many Penn Staters came out. So the first away game that we had was Illinois, and I went out to Champaign, Illinois, and we had I think about 600 or 700 Penn Staters, and I was like, wow. We're not going to beat this. This is amazing. There's so many Penn Staters out there coming out to Champaign, Illinois, 2 hours outside of Chicago. Unbelievable. I can't get better than this. Then, a few weeks later, I went to Columbus. 1,000 Penn Staters, right? Coming up to the Roar Tour, coming out to our events. There's no way we're going to beat this. This is the best thing that we could have possibly done. And then just a few weeks later, after that, we went to College Park, 2,000 Penn Staters, right? So I just keep getting shocked as to how many Penn Staters show up, the numbers, the pride, the passion. I feel like we're going to definitely beat all of that at the Peach Bowl in a few weeks here. But it's just that commitment from people coming all over the country to be in one place to support our Penn Staters, our athletes, our alums. I don't think any other university can do what we do. In fact, I'm very confident that no other university does what we do. And that's why we have the world's largest alumni association, the world's most powerful alumni network. And so all of those events have just been so inspiring, so enlightening. And it's easy to take for granted what we have here. But when you start to look around at what other universities do, I mean, we have more people show up to a lot of our events than probably fill up stadiums for game day, right? And I don't actually think that's an exaggeration. So I'm really proud of the accomplishments of our alums. I'm proud of the passion that they show, the support that they show to our students, and just the impact that they make on our communities. And I couldn't be more excited for the rest of my term and everything that's to come ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Just following up on that, when we went to Illinois for the Roar Tour, our event had kind of like a makeshift fence, kind of like a plastic thing that you might see at Little League fields. And we just thought, this isn't going to work. Like there were just so many people. And then when we went to Northwestern 2 weeks ago, we had a big area that had no fencing. We took over the golf course. And so we hear all the time from, folks like local business owners who like, they don't quite understand the impact of how many alumni are actually going to show up. They'll think, yeah, we can handle this. And then we show up and they're like, we weren't expecting this many people. And so, it's surprise might not be the right word, but it just kind of reinforces, like, you just think to yourself, like, this is the best, like, it doesn't get better than this. And then next thing you know, it does. And I think that speaks to, why we love Penn State.
Absolutely. Penn Staters show up, right? We show up and we fill rooms and we overflow rooms but we're still happy and proud and love to interact with each other. And that's just something that I know, and we know is such a special thing that we're grateful for.
So even though we're going to Atlanta for the first time in the postseason, in Georgia and its neighboring states, we have just about 50,000 alumni, more than 13,000 alumni association members. Looking ahead to the pep rally, we're going to take over the Georgia World Congress Center. One, have you figured out what you want to say yet? And two, what's that moment like for you? Because you know what it was like last year, downtown Los Angeles, one of the largest cities in our country, nothing but blue and white. So one, what do you think your message will be? And two, do you allow yourself to just stop and for a moment and say, wow, this is pretty amazing?
Yeah. Well, I have not thought about what I'm going to say yet. And I have really big shoes to fill because if we remember, my predecessor, Kelly Lynch, stood up in the Rose Bowl pep rally and sang a Miley Cyrus song, and it was unbelievable. So for the benefit of everyone, no one's going to hear me sing. I can definitively tell you that. But I'm spending some time next week to think about the message that I want to share. My messages to all Penn Staters are really focused on, first and foremost, the gratitude for mobilizing and showing up and supporting our students, but also sort of galvanizing our alums to continue to participate in Penn State events through the Alumni Association and to understand the impact that's made on students, on alums. So those are generally the themes that I'm gonna share. I am so excited. I'm trying to remind myself, be present, take it all in. These New Year's Six trips, as great as our team has been in recent years, we cannot take them for granted. They are really unbelievable experiences. In some cases, they can be a once in a lifetime experience. Who knows when we're going to get to go back to the Peach Bowl or the Rose Bowl or whichever major bowl it's going to be. So I'm going to remind myself to be present and to take it all in and see how all of these amazing Penn Staters coming together, what kind of impact and just what a special experience that is. So I'm really excited for it, but I do have some work to do to prep for that pep rally, and I hope to be able to galvanize the crew. I know there's always a great slate of other speakers too, so big shoes to fill and a lot to plan for.
Boy, you're taking me back. Kelly Lynch, was it the Miley Cyrus song? Something Party in the USA. I'm
That's
not,
right.
I'm in my 40s now, so I'm not always up to date with like the latest music. But yeah, Kelly she nailed it. She crushed it. It was great. So yeah, big shout out, Kelly Lynch, fellow Smeal College of Business grad.
Exactly. Yeah.
You said something that you mentioned a couple times, listening to our alumni, asking what they need. I'm just curious, over the last, 5 or 6 months, what have you learned about the alumni network that maybe you're learning for the first time, or it's kind of reinforcing something that you weren't sure about? Is there something that you know now that you maybe didn't quite know when you started as president 6 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think our alumni network, if anything, it reinforces, something that I believed about the alumni network, where it's that, everyone has a different story, and everyone has a different motivation for getting involved with the Alumni Association at the time that they do. What I've learned in speaking, particularly with our younger alumni audience, is that there is a lot of sort of excitement when there's an opportunity presented to engage with Penn State. that opportunity maybe doesn't always show up to everyone as conveniently or in front of them as the way they would need to make it a priority amongst everything else that you might be doing. So what I've learned is that we have to go out of our way as much as we can, as those of us who are lucky enough to be involved and to have been given these opportunities, to ask others to join us, to bring others in. I'll give the example of the Philadelphia chapter because I live in Philadelphia. Every February, Philadelphia chapter hosts this amazing event, the Liberty Ball, which is a really great fundraiser for Thon. It's a whole dinner. Hundreds of Penn Staters come out to it every year. It's such an amazing event. And I remember talking to a lot of recent grads, and many of whom were very involved with Thon. And when they found out about it, they were like, "Oh, obviously I'm going to go. That's an amazing thing. I want to do that." But they just, for whatever reason, hadn't heard about it. So there's more that we can do to just share. These are the opportunities in front of you. Come on in and join us. Bring it in, because when push comes to shove, people want to engage with Penn State. They just need to know how. And they just need a little bit of encouragement sometimes. And that's what I'm learning more and more. And sometimes when I go out to various events and activities, I'll get to talk to Penn Staters, some of whom have been coming to every event forever, for years. And then others, it's their first event in a decade. And you see that contrast. So I think, we can get to a point where we get even more and more Penn Staters to say, "Hey, I've been coming out to a lot of events for every year. I'm an active member and I'm telling my peers about this. And this is really important." So that's some of the things that I've learned. And my hope, because this is what was given to me as president and as a volunteer, is someone went out of their way to ask me to volunteer and believe that I had something to offer. I want to go out there and ask as many people as I can what they would they be willing to come back and join us and help out and be a part of this great community, because more often than not, the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Philadelphia chapter does so many wonderful things year round. I see a lot of their chapter leaders back on campus throughout the year. Always see them posting to social media. They're always kind of up to date on things. Just to reset here a little bit, you are listening to the Football Letter podcast. We are speaking with Anand Ganjam, president of the Penn State Alumni Association, the largest dues-paying alumni association in the world. We're biased, so we can say that. And we're going to wrap up here with hopefully maybe a fun question, maybe even a little inspirational one. As you look ahead to 2024, whether it's something in January or next summer, as a Penn Stater, as the president of the Alumni Association, what has you fired up and excited about 2024?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's so much. It's hard to point to one thing. I think that the Alumni Association and the university are doing some really incredible things as it relates to utilizing technology to engage with Penn Staters in ways we've never done before. And that's the first thing that comes to mind. We talk a lot within the Alumni Association about personalizing the membership experience. So how do we create experiences that are meaningful based on where you are in life, based on your personal interests, based on where you live, right? And our ability to do that is going to be enhanced, tenfold, because of investments that the university and the Alumni Association are making on new technology. So that has me really, really fired up. I think that the focus of our university to continue to do new and innovative things, I hear a lot about the way the university is trying to amplify our work in generative AI, right? And then the other things, areas of focus around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging to bring in more people. I do really feel like Penn State and our Alumni Association are at the forefront of what society needs from an engagement standpoint. So there's so much to be excited about. I think that all of us are going to start to experience Penn State in a way that's more accessible to us, that's more personalized to us. And that should simplify the way that we're able to connect, whether that's, there's those of us who want to go back to University Park and have the means to do that and go on game day. And there's others who want to engage with Penn State more locally or through the confines of our own homes. We're all going to be able to do that in a more seamless way. And I think that's really important, right? That's our pathway to get from 175,000 Alumni Association members to 750,000. We have over 750,000 living alums. So we have a road to pave, and we have more Penn Staters to bring in. And our ability to do that, I think, is only going to get better. And those are probably just 1% of the many things that Penn State's doing to make it exciting. And one of the many reasons that I'm super amped up to play in this role and look ahead to 24.
Yeah, 2024 will be exciting and you'll be at the center of it all here with the Alumni Association. When we see you in a couple of weeks, we will be in Atlanta, Georgia for Penn Staters traveling. We look forward to seeing you there. If you're at the pep rally and we'll be speaking, and, just come up to us, let us know, who you are, why you're there, why you're passionate about Penn State. We're there to connect with Penn Staters. And so it'll be a fun time. We'll go down there. We'll spend a lot of good time with our alumni, make a lot of great memories, win the game, and then it's full steam ahead in 2024.
That's right.
All right, Anand, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast. I'll see you soon, buddy, and thanks again. Thanks for everything you do.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the opportunity. Excited to see you in the Peach Bowl.
Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter podcast. This week, we are bringing you a special Peach Bowl episode. This week, we're going to be speaking with Nick Colella, lifelong Penn Stater, really great guy. Have seen him around campus and the athletic programs for a long time. He is the athletics chief of staff, lifelong Penn Stater. He earned 2 degrees from Penn State. His Penn State education began at Penn State Barron, one of our 19 Commonwealth campuses here at Penn State. Played hoops there, arrived at University Park, started with the hoops team as a walk-on, earned a scholarship, was named team captain. Just a really great story that we're going to talk to him a little bit about. He was on the 2011 NCAA tournament team, spent a decade with the hoop staff in various leadership positions. Again, athletics chief of staff. Really good guy, has a leadership position. We're going to talk with him about a little bit about the football program and also a little bit about hoops and kind of, just the Penn State athletics program in general. Thought this would be a good time to catch up with Nick as we look ahead to the Peach Bowl. Nick Colella, appreciate your time so much. Welcome to the Football Letter podcast, sir.
It's great to see you, John. Usually I see you running around on the sideline with a camera. So it's good to finally see you and talk in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate your time. So as the chief of staff, can you give a little bit of an overview of your position, what you're focusing on maybe on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and then also what's it like working with Pat Kraft? Because we've talked about this. He has such an enormous amount of energy. And I'm just sort of wondering behind the scenes, what is it like working with Pat?
Yeah, I love working for Pat, and I love being at Penn State. A chief of staff, I think it's just kind of a catch-all. And that's what I've been in basketball for the number of years. And it's kind of just doing whatever he's asked and try to help support our staff and our teams. But really it's the passion and the love that you see on camera that Pat, exudes out of his energy and all that. That's all real. And that's all passion from him.
From a personality perspective, you played college athletics Division I, Pat played college athletics Division I, even though they were different sports. What's that level of camaraderie like? And even kind of the language where you guys might see something from the perspective of not just an administrative leader, but also as a player.
Yeah, I think it's very unique, right? We have the perspective of being inside a locker room. And I think a lot of our executive staff, right? We have Brandy played softball, KP played softball, Vinny and Adam, who are also deputies, played baseball. So I think they understand being inside a locker room. They understand, what teams are going through or what players are going through day to day, especially pairing it with our academic system, right? I feel like he has a really good sense of what our players are going through. So I think he has a little different perspective when he's making decisions and doing some things around campus.
So the football program getting ready to play in the Peach Bowl later this month, December 30th, Saturday, noon kickoff on ESPN, downtown Atlanta. You traveled a little bit with the football team this season, in addition to being at Beaver Stadium, on game day. Just curious, perhaps seeing the football team up close in a new way. What stood out to you about, not just maybe the way the team plays, but, behind the scenes, what the locker room is like, how James Franklin runs the program, and kind of, how that team was able to win 10 wins again in the regular season, which, by the way, that's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And, I've always known this because I've known James for a long time, but I think it's just the family atmosphere they have. No matter they're in the hotel, they're traveling, they're meeting, they're in the locker room. Everything's about family. He's always using the word love, and he genuinely loves these guys, loves his staff. And that was the biggest thing, right? Just seeing all the families there traveling on the road, supporting the guys, the players meeting with their families. That was the biggest thing that stood out. I've already known it, just knowing James, but seeing it into action and seeing it every weekend was pretty powerful.
Yeah, speaking of seeing you on game day, saw you in Detroit for the Black Friday game against Michigan State. Obviously, 42-0 win for Penn State. Had Penn State alumni and fans there, as you would expect. Even going back to your playing days and obviously traveling with the hoops team a lot, it feels like no matter where Penn State goes, alumni are going to show up, fans are going to show up, especially from a player's perspective. What is the real time impact of that being in a game on the road? You feel like you're going into enemy territory, and still you know that you've got, you know, family and friends there and alumni, and you've got that support behind you.
Yeah, I think as a player, I think the hardest thing is like sitting around. Not saying they sit around all day, but like just waiting for those meetings, right? Like you want, as a player, I always wanted to wake up, go eat breakfast, and go play right away. So I think the hardest thing is just sitting around and keeping yourself focused and engaged on the team that's ahead. Again, I just think the buzz that our fan base, our alumni bring it's remarkable. Just as we got into the city and as we got into the hotel, just seeing everybody there cheering us on. And there was a Lions-Packers game the day before, but still seeing a lot of blue and white in the hotel. Pretty remarkable. It's one of the reasons why, you know, I've always said it and talked about it. It's one of the reasons why I want to be a part of the program, athletic department, and stick around, is the power of Penn State and just the power of our alumni association.
Well, sticking on that topic a little bit, the Hoops team is going to be going to Madison Square Garden later this month, to the Palestra in January, which many Penn Staters are familiar with. You know, we have such a huge fan base in those areas. What's the significance of going and meeting those alumni where they are in New York City, in Philly, and giving them an opportunity to see Penn State up close in their area?
Yeah, that was always one of the biggest points, specifically where we're located, right? We got a large fan base in Philadelphia, a large fan base in Jersey, New York. You know, we're constantly asking fans to come see us, come see us. Our ideas, we're trying to go see them, right? Like the Palestra was always a big one. It's one of my favorite games, always sells out within 10 minutes. Madison Square Garden, again, one of the premier places you want to play on the East Coast, and our fans really show up. I remember the NIT years. Utah came in there and it was a home game for us. We sold the place out. So that it's always great because, right, I understand, like, people, it's always hard for them to come to us. So we try to go out there, and those are some of the hot spots, right, for us and our fan base. So it's always great going out there and seeing everybody.
And then in addition to football, men's basketball, I mean, you know this as well as anyone, 31 varsity sports.
Yep.
Women's volleyball had a great season. Women's soccer, I mean, we could sit here for a long time. Wrestling ranked #1.
Right.
Men's hockey. As chief of staff, you know, over the next 6 months or maybe even over the next year, you know, what are some things that you're looking forward to that, you know, maybe going under the radar, or even not, just, you know, things that you're kind of looking forward to that are going to be coming up on the sports calendar?
Yeah, I'll be honest. The most enjoyable thing that I've gotten to experience in these last 6 months is just working with other teams and other coaches. I've always known the other head coaches, like in just a high and by relationship. I think now it's been more fulfilling to me to be able to help and just, you know, see our student athletes. And right now I'm a secondary admin for women's hockey and men's and women's golf. So just being able, you know, in our season, I was never able to really go and interact and see, but now that I have the time and I can kind of spread out and go see some of these sports, it's been nothing but fulfilling for me, just seeing how some of our student athletes are.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even just going back a little bit to when we used to have Coaches Caravan, you know, we would have the coaches get together in the bus, and like they don't actually get a whole lot of time to talk with one another throughout the sports season with their schedules. And so, you know, I know what it's like just to be able to catch up with folks for 5-10 minutes. And so I think that answer is really insightful, Nick, because yeah, folks might think coaches are talking shop all the time, and it's not like that.
It's hard. It's hard, you know, right? Everyone's got their own thing, and they're constantly recruiting now with the transfer portal and everything else going on. So it's, from my lens, it's nice because I can kind of bop around in practice when I want to and see some of these teams and catch everything. So,
hey, we're going to ask you for the local perspective, you know, on those rare occasions when you do have some free time, you know, what are some things that you like to do in State College or even the surrounding area?
Yeah, we have a German short-haired pointer who's got a lot of energy. So my wife and I, you know, we'll take him out. We run him up Mount Nittany. We'll run him out to some other places where, you know, the landscape out here is gorgeous out in the summer, fall, springtime. So really, we just like to get out and hike. I'll play golf every once in a while when I can, but really being outside and being with the dog. And there's a few other things the wineries around here are not bad, just in the right time and the right weather setting. But yeah, we really just like to be outside.
All right. Hey, again, you're listening to the Football Letter podcast. We're catching up with Penn State Athletics Chief of Staff Nick Colella. Spent a decade with the Hoops team in leadership positions, earned a scholarship. We're going to have you back on the podcast, Nick, because I think there's a part of me that just wants to talk hoops with you. And there's so much more going on.
Right.
But we'll wrap up with this. And I know, for folks who have followed you on social media, you posted some, really nice photos when, you and Allie, got engaged and were able to stay in the area. On a personal level, how meaningful is it for you to be able to spend your career in Happy Valley, call this place home? And what is it about this place that does make it home for you?
Yeah. And you get this, like when you're a student, you really don't understand how, special the place is and all that. Like I didn't really understand it until I physically graduated and I looked at everything and I'm like, you know what, this place is really special. I had an opportunity to stay on as a GA after I got done playing, got my master's, and kind of worked my way up. And my wife had graduated from here. We met here. We got married here. We're having a child in the spring. So this place it's home for us. Both our families are 2.5 hours away each side. So we're smack dab in the middle. But we really, really just, it's the people for us, right? All the people around here that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. It's really special. The community, unbelievable, right? Like the athletic department feels like the biggest show in town where everyone really rallies around all our teams. And that's special to us. That's the type of community environment we want to raise our family in. And I'm grateful to be able to stay here and continue to work here. And we couldn't be happier.
Nick Colella, quintessential Penn Stater, Penn State love story. We are so glad that you stopped by the podcast. We always enjoy seeing you around the stadium, the field, the ice. We'll see you down in Atlanta later this month for the Peach Bowl. Wishing you nothing but continued success and well wishes. And thanks again for stopping by the podcast, Nick.
Yeah, and John, I thank you guys and thank all your crew for everything you guys do. Right, you guys put everything out for our alumni to see and kind of get a peek behind the curtain. So we appreciate everything you guys and thank you for having me on here.
Anytime, Nick. Thanks.
Yep.
Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter podcast. This week, we welcome Garrett Taylor, Penn State football letterman from 2015 to 2019. Garrett is a 2018 Penn State grad with a degree in advertising and public relations. Garrett wore number 17 for the Nittany Lions as a standout defensive back. And in true success with honor fashion, he was named academic All Big Ten not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times as a Nittany Lion. Professionally, he continues to have an impact as a registered client service associate in Miami, Florida for Stifel, which is a full-service brokerage and investment banking firm. And for what it's worth, I talked with Garrett a lot when he was in his playing days. I always went out of my way to try to talk with him in media sessions. Really great guy. We're going to enjoy catching up with him. Garrett Taylor, so thrilled you're making time for us on the Football Letter podcast. How you doing today, sir?
Doing great, John. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, let's start at the beginning. You were excelling as a prep athlete in Virginia. That's definitely a hotbed for Penn State recruiting. How was that process for you, in your junior, senior years in high school? And how did Penn State become the school for you?
Yeah, it was really interesting. As you mentioned, Penn State recruits the DMV, pretty heavily. But interestingly enough, when I was a junior and a senior, I wasn't really on Penn State's radar. I think that was before Franklin got the job. And the first time I actually met Franklin and his staff was a visit to Vandy. And I met Franklin, Coach Pry, Coach Shoop at the time. Loved them as a coaching staff, wasn't too interested in Vanderbilt. And then, fast forward a year or so, and I get a call from Franklin and Pry, and they're like, hey, we got the Penn State job. We loved you when we were recruiting you at Vandy as a player. We think you should just, come up, check out the campus. And, I love them as well as the staff. And, I said, why not? And I went up there. I want to say it was for the Michigan State game over the Thanksgiving weekend that year. Fell in love with the school, fell in love with the campus. Beaver Stadium. It was pretty impressive to see for the first time and kind of be in that stadium and really get to witness the fan base. And Penn State kind of had everything I was looking for. I was looking to, play big time football. Something my parents, made sure was important growing up was, academics. So I had a good school to go to. And, something that, Coach Franklin and Pry pitched to me was that, obviously the program had gone through some stuff and they were like, we think we can rebuild this program to something special. And we think you can be a part of that. And, that kind of enticed me because not only did I want to play big time football, but I wanted to have an impact somewhere. And, all those factors together, I was, excited to go, excited to commit to Penn State and Coach Franklin and the staff. So it ended up working out pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. You arrived on campus. You were a special teams contributor. You worked your way up to being a starter. You finished top 10 in the Big Ten in interceptions your junior season. You were a team captain your senior season. Along the way, were there one or two key moments where you thought to yourself, I'm starting to progress as a player, I'm starting to elevate my play? Or was it more of a gradual thing where you just kind of kept putting in the work and it just happened that way?
It was, I would say it's pretty gradual. I had, like you said, I kind of had the long road. Redshirted my freshman year. I was coming off a torn ACL in high school. So, my true freshman year, I was, kind of getting my feet back under me. I redshirted, and then my redshirt freshman year, special teams, just trying to go out there and make an impact. Then sophomore year, I was kind of getting some, end of the game, fourth quarter with, big leads, playing times, and I made a couple good plays here or there. So that gave me a little bit of confidence to say, hey, look, like, I belong here and I can, come out and contribute. And I think the way it just played out, Coach Franklin and Coach Pry and then Banks, who was there by the time this happened, I got pulled into the office in off season and I got moved to safety. And they told me that, we think safety's a really good fit for you. And we think you can make more of an impact, immediately as a safety. And so that camp going into my junior year, I think Marcus had just left and Nick was still there. So for me, it was gradual up until that point. And I kind of decided for myself that, this was kind of a defining moment in my career. And I either, because it was a wide open competition. And, I think it was like me, John Sutherland, Lamont, we were all competing and it made us all better. And I decided, I could either, take advantage of the opportunity or, I'd miss my chance. So I put in a lot of work and a lot of effort in the off season, which was something that was pretty consistent throughout my career. And I just ended up having a really great camp. Nick was, huge in terms of kind of mentoring me along and, we had great communication, great chemistry on the field. So we just instantly clicked and had a great camp and earned the starting role. And, my first game against App State, it felt like I was supposed to be out there. I made a couple good tackles and, from then on, my confidence just, grew, as I got to play more and it just turned into something pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Nick Scott. Big fans of Nick Scott here on the program, and he also was a contributor on special teams. Uh, the teams that you played on, I mean, they had a tremendous amount of success. 3 years, winning 11 games, Big Ten champions, going to the Rose, Fiesta the Cotton. Can you kind of take us a little bit inside, that locker room? Those teams that you played on, were there themes or similarities that brought those teams together in terms of, what stands out about your time as a Penn State Nittany Lion when you think back about what it was like, not just playing, but being in the locker room and being around those guys?
I would say, first and foremost, we were all really close. Like I remember just, being in the locker room, either after a lift in the summer or, after practice in the fall and, all just enjoyed being around each other. And so I think we had a really good, team chemistry and we all bonded, which, made us closer, not only in the locker room and off the field, but it also helped on the field. And kind of transitioning into that great, chemistry is like we all held each other accountable. Like it was very, very rare to ever have to tell someone to, give more effort, whether that be in the weight room or at practice. And if that chance or if that, instance did come up, like the leaders on the team were never shy in terms of calling someone out. I think that was something that I experienced as a young player. I saw the way those guys were leading the locker room and how they approached everything day in, day out, from film, from lifting, from, practice, whatever it may be. We all held each other accountable, and there was, such a high standard because we knew how talented we were, and we knew we had these goals of, like you said, Rose Bowl, Big Ten championships, competing for national championships. So everyone had these expectations, and we were all, trying to pull the rope in the same direction. And that's something that ever since I can remember, since I was there, that's something that I tried to do when, I was a senior and a captain. And I think that's something they've, continued to do since I've left. So that's what, really stood out to me in terms of like how we were as a team.
Hey, being a team captain, I kind of want to follow up on this idea of leadership, accountability. When you were named a team captain, what does that mean? Knowing that your teammates are recognizing you, your coaches are recognizing you, did that have sort of an impact for you in how you approached your senior season, or in terms of your work, knowing that guys are looking to me as a leader, as a captain?
I would say the only thing, in my opinion, that it really had changed my approach was, how vocal I needed to be. I think when I was a junior, and throughout my Penn State career, I took a lot of pride in, my work ethic and the way I approach things, on and off the field. So that didn't really change for me. But my junior year, we obviously had Nick. He was the leader of the defense. He was the leader of the safeties room. While I was a starter, I might not have been, as comfortable, speaking up vocally. But I got voted a captain, and even before that happened, before camp started, Coach Banks kind of pulled me into his office. We had our season, like our preseason, meeting, kind of his expectations for me and what he wanted out of me going into the year. And he kind of expressed like, hey, this is your room now. This is your defense. And he didn't say necessarily like flat out that I need you to be more vocal, but the tone of the conversation, I kind of understood what needed to be done. So that's something that I took a lot of steps forward in terms of, speaking up and, being a vocal leader of the defense of the team. So I would say that's mainly the approach. But it meant a lot, knowing that your peers and, the coaching staff, even the support staff, everyone votes. And for me, it was validating that, all the work that I had, put in up to that point, people were seeing it. And it was a huge honor, and that was something I didn't take lightly. So I was very proud of that.
You're listening to the Football Letter Podcast. We are catching up with Garrett Taylor. Garrett's 2019 season, his senior year, the team finished the season in the Cotton Bowl. You may remember that Garrett Taylor pick six against Memphis. That was, just watching that game, that was wildly entertaining, fun to watch, high scoring. It was a close game. It was a 2-point game late in the third quarter. What do you remember about that game, the battle that Memphis gave you, and then ultimately, how did you guys prevail?
Yeah, I mean, huge props to Memphis, great team. And we knew going into it, we had watched the film. We knew they had a lot of talented players on offense. So we knew it was going to be a challenge. And sure enough, we get out there and it's a shootout. They were making plays. We were making plays. I forget this. I know I played every snap. I forget the snap count. But at one point, I was, exhausted on the sideline. And funny enough, Coach Banks he got me on the headset the series before that pick six. 'Cause like you said, it was a shootout. It was a close game, 3-point game at that point, near the very end of the third quarter. And he got me on the headset and he was like, "Do you need a break? Like, do you want to come out for a series?" And I immediately told him no. I was like, "This is my like last game, senior year. Like, I want to go out either dead or like or with a Cotton Bowl victory." So I was like, "No, I'm good, coach." I stayed in, and sure enough, that series I got the pick six, and we had some momentum. And shout out the offense. Journey Brown had an incredible game. We just, I think we just, persevered. Like we had a lot of faith in just what we were doing as a team, and I think after that play, we just kind of kept pushing and kept executing, and we ended up pulling away a little bit at the end. But that was one of the most exciting games I played in, because it was back and forth, and eventually we pulled away at the end. But it was awesome.
I'm sure under any circumstances it would have felt great, but knowing that, that was your senior season, your last game at Penn State, what did it feel like walking off the field? Was it satisfaction? Was it fulfillment? Was it, maybe something else?
It was like, I would say like, I felt just like a culmination of, my Penn State career. It was awesome because I had a lot of my family there. I knew it was like my last game in a Penn State uniform. I knew kind of everything I had done up until that point to get me to where I was, and to cap it off with a win, and to make an impact play in front of my family, to get those other seniors on the team out with a W, and just to kind of really put the icing on the cake for a career. I was very proud. I was happy. It just felt not like, I don't even know if like a weight off of my shoulders is a good way to describe it, but it just felt like, just to put, I guess, a bookend on what I would call my Penn State story. It felt like that was a pretty good way to end it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the weeks leading up to that game, I believe it was at the team banquet. You received the Ridge Riley Memorial Award. Ridge Riley, close to the heart of me, the heart of the Alumni Association, as the Penn Stater who created the football letter. And that's an award that the team gives out every year in recognition of excellence in sportsmanship, scholarship, leadership, and friendship, which I think speaks volumes to how you carried yourself, Garrett, and on and off the field. What motivated you to want to excel, not just on the field, but in other areas, and really maximize your time as a true student athlete?
I give all the credit to my parents. Just that's something that it was almost like a non-negotiable, growing up. My parents, they sacrificed a lot to be able to put me through private school from when I was in the first grade. I went to all boys private school from first grade until I graduated. And um, they always made sure that school came first. And they also always made sure I was, raised the right way, and in terms of how I treated people, like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, holding doors open, please, and thank you. And I just also saw how my parents interacted with other people. My mom was always super friendly. I used to go to these events with my dad, and just seeing the way people gravitated towards him, and how he made other people feel, made me want to do the same. And I feel like that's how I approached, how I made friendships with, my teammates, people outside of the team, other classmates. And I just wanted to, kind of emulate both of my parents in terms of how they, had an impact on other people. And I took that approach with other people at Penn State. I took that approach with how they viewed academics at school. And they also, my dad put that fire in me with sports. He always said he's never going to tell me what to play, but if I was going to do something, to do it 100%. So I played all sorts of sports growing up. I wrestled, I played lacrosse. My first real big sport was AAU basketball. So he's like, I'll let you do all these things, but if you're going to commit yourself to something, you have to do it 100%. And that eventually my football career, and that's how I approach things with football as well. So I would give 100% credit to my parents for that one.
Well, that's so well said, Garrett. And yeah, just thanks for kind of sharing that. It's a lot of times, fans, alumni, they'll watch the games. And I think, our alumni base, they also want to know about, the player, not just, they want to know about the person, not just the player. And kind of, switching gears a little bit, you have spent some time with our golf coast chapter in Florida. Our president, Nick Bocci, he was on campus earlier this fall and said, "Hey, Garrett Taylor's coming to one of our watch parties." He was so excited. One, how did that connection get made? And then what was it like to connect with, local Penn Staters in the Miami area?
Yeah, it was great. So it kind of happened as part of my line of work. I'd just been trying to expand my network professionally, and I went on the Alumni Association website, and it gave me a list of all the alumni chapter presidents within the footprint. And so I sent out a couple of emails, and Nick responded, and we set up a Zoom call, and I was like, hey, like, I just gave him a quick 30-second elevator pitch. Is here's who I am, here's what I do now. I would love to connect. And he was very opening and welcoming. He's like, yeah, sure, come up for a watch party. So I made the trip, and it was great. Like that was always one of my favorite parts about Penn State was the fans. The fans elevated the experience through their support at the games, off the field, and just kind of being able to see that through a different lens as an alumni was awesome. I announced like the raffle ticket winner. I bounced around and talked to a couple different tables. I was getting a million questions about what it was like to play in a whiteout and stuff, but just to see how passionate they are about Penn State football and how supportive they were of me and like my current endeavors. It was great to see, because that's something that Franklin talked about a ton, and he was always hammering home like the alumni network is powerful. He started that guest coach program, and he was always urging guys to make connections. And as like an 18, 19-year-old, that's something that you hear, and sometimes it goes, in one ear and out the other. But I'm 27 now, and to actually, be able to take advantage of that and really truly see the power of like the Penn State Alumni Network, it was pretty special.
Yeah, you sort of touched on it a little bit. I wanted to ask you about the alumni and fan support while you were a player. And it's sort of a two-part question. I mean, I always want to ask folks, what was it like to play at Beaver Stadium? So I'm going to be like one of the folks at the watch party. What do think about, or what stands out the most when you think about what it was like to play at Beaver Stadium, coming out of that tunnel, and you look up in the stands and you see 107, 108, thousand fans, and they're all there supporting you and the program?
It almost is like, it's surreal. It's like you walk out of that tunnel, and just like the way it opens up, and you see how just absolutely like massive Beaver Stadium is, and that thing is packed from the first row until the last row, and it's just, and everyone is going absolutely buck wild, and it's so cool to see, because like you said, like that these fans are here to support you, and they would almost do anything to to see you win. And I remember like my first whiteout start is like what probably one that sticks out to me, just because of the significance of that game, and just like the spectacle of the whiteout too, and everything that goes with it, like college game day. And I'm walking out of the tunnel, and like I'm usually like, and also before the game, I'm usually like a pretty, not quiet, like I'm usually like pretty sociable. Like I'll walk around, like dap some guys up, say a couple words to some guys. But I was so nervous before that game, just because I had like really understood the magnitude of like what I was about to walk into. And that stadium opened up, and it was a sea of white, and sure enough, I was on the field. You feel the ground shaking and all this other stuff. Like obviously I'm biased, but I don't think anywhere else is touching that in terms of an atmosphere in college football. So it means the world to you as a player because it's not like that everywhere. You have some, even living, down here, I've been able to see, some other football games, and I think we're truly blessed, and I think we really have it. We have the best fans in the country because it's not like that everywhere. So we always appreciated the fans. It was great.
Again, you are listening to the Football Letter podcast. We are speaking with Letterman team captain, Big Ten champion Garrett Taylor. Garrett, we just have a few more questions for you. Again, appreciate your time. Being a student athlete at Penn State, what were some life lessons that you picked up during those days that you find still carry with you at Stiefel? Just kind of maybe even on day-to-day things where you're doing something and you're thinking this is something that I picked up at Penn State playing football.
Oh wow, I would say like commitment and consistency. Obviously we had our 4 core values, positive attitude, great work ethic, compete in everything you do, and sacrifice. And that's, something that I, carry with me, every day. Sacrificing, like right now I'm studying for my CFP, certification, and that's been a grind. And even, just competing in terms of, within my job, sometimes, trying to just make sure I'm doing everything I can to put my best work forward. Positive attitude. That's also something like it's something I had with me at Penn State, and just, being able to apply that to just anything. Because I've noticed, just like it's the same way at Penn State, like, right, everything's not going to go perfect all the time, right? There's going to be certain workouts that are hard, like those winter workouts you used to go through, being on the field at 5 a.m. in the morning, and basically them running you into the ground. Or sometimes there's days at work where I'm like tired, or like there's an Excel sheet that I really don't want to do, but just being able to have a positive attitude about it, and just kind of push through, and know at the end of the day, like if you keep stacking that, your end product is going to be better than that maybe 1 or 2 off days. So it just really gives you a solid base. And I think that's why so many Penn Staters, football guys, any student athlete is successful after they get done playing, because you have kind of this like grit and the drive, and that competitiveness like instilled in you while you're playing. And if you can carry it over into whatever you're doing afterwards, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to be successful.
Well, I'll say this, Garrett. I'll ask you if you stay up to date with the current team, because the defensive backfields that have been coming out of Penn State, I mean, going back to when you played in before, is I don't know if ferocious does it justice, but just how much do you stay updated with what the current team is doing? Do you watch the games, and is there a part of you that's saying, yeah, that's right, that's the Penn State defensive backfield that I know?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I got to keep up with all the games, and I've been watching ever since I graduated. And to see a guy like Brisker, someone who I played with, come, step in right after, and kind of take the reins and really, ball out the way he did. And he got drafted. And then Jair Brown, he wasn't there when I was there, but seeing his body of work when he came in, that was awesome. And you got the Kalen King. He's a baller. Like all those guys out, like I think Reed, super, like this. It's just awesome seeing those guys, fly around, because that's what you want. Like you want to leave the program off better than what you left it. And those guys are out there making plays, week in, week out. I don't know the exact statistics, but I know our defense ranked had to be top 5 nationally in a number of categories. And seeing those guys really change the game through their defensive back play, I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm happy to see those guys continuing that legacy. So it's pretty cool to see.
All right, Garrett, we'll end on this. For the Peach Bowl, Penn State, Ole Miss, December 30th, noon kickoff on ESPN. what are one or two things that you'll be looking for during the game, especially, as a letterman, where you'll be thinking, okay, this could be something that, determines the outcome, and maybe something that, the average fan might not even be noticing, but you'll notice as a player?
I want to see. I'd be interested, and I think we're gonna do great with it. But I'm looking for our run game. I think there's always this stigma, especially like SEC versus Big Ten, and the physicality of each conference. So like I'm excited to see the Long Boys, Nick and Katron. I'm excited to see what they can do. Combine with our offensive line. And kind of like you're touching on it, our defensive play, like up front. I know Chop's not playing, but I want to see guys like Adiz out there making plays, and guys in our defensive backfield. I want to see them impact the game, because I have a feeling with Jackson Dart, I feel like Ole Miss is probably going to pass a lot and try to test our guys out. And so there's going to be opportunities for them to make plays. So I think that if they, keep that level of play up they've had all year, there's going to be, opportunities for, interceptions and a great chance to really impact the game.
Garrett Taylor, I've been looking forward to this for a few weeks. Garrett and I have been swapping messages, trying to get our schedules matched. Garrett, seriously, personally, professionally, wishing you all the best. Hopefully we stay in touch, and would love to have you on the podcast again, sir. Absolutely.
I really appreciate you guys having me. This has been great. Always great catching up with you, John. Yeah, this was awesome, and hopefully I can come back. Open invite, so I'm ready to come back on whenever.